The stellar whisper shot into space as explosions lit up the royal city below. Lyra's hands shook on the controls while Harlow worked the ship's defensive systems. Void fighters pursued them, their black hulls almost invisible against the darkness of space. "They're locking weapons," Harlow warned. His fingers moved across the control panel with surprising skill. "Hold on!" The ship twisted sharply as green energy beams sliced through the space they had just occupied. Lyra struggled to maintain control, her royal training kicking in despite her fear. "How do you know how to operate Elysian weapon systems?" she asked, as they narrowly avoided another blast. "It's complicated," Harlow replied, firing the ship's rear cannons. Two void fighters exploded into clouds of debris. "We need to reach hyperspace. The nearest jump point is blocked by their main battleship," Lyra said, pointing to the radar display. Harlow pressed his hand against a section of the control panel that looked like solid metal. It glowed under his touch, revealing a hidden set of controls. "This ship has a direct hyperspace initiator," he said. "No jump point needed." Lyra stared at him in shock. "That's impossible. That technology doesn't exist yet." "It does on this ship." Harlow began entering a complex sequence of commands. "Your father and I worked on it before I left. It was theoretical then. Looks like he got it working." The ship hummed as new systems came online. The stars ahead of them began to stretch and blur. "Wait," Lyra said suddenly. "My father, did he survive the attack? We need to go back for him." Harlow's face showed genuine pain. "I'm sorry, Lyra. The attack on the palace was precise. They knew exactly where to strike." "You mean—" "I felt it too," Harlow said softly. "The king is gone." Tears filled Lyra's eyes as the full weight of her loss hit her. Not just her father, but her world, her people, all now under attack with no warning, no time to prepare. The ship lurched forward into hyperspace, the pursuing void fighters vanishing behind them as reality itself seemed to bend. Lyra slumped in her chair, overwhelmed by grief. "Where are we going?" she asked after several minutes of silence. "Helios 9, Harlow replied. "A mining outpost in the asteroid belt of the Carillion system. It was abandoned years ago, but your father kept it maintained as a safe house. We can regroup there." "And then what?" "The void has taken Elysium. Our military was unprepared. We're just one ship." "This isn't just any ship," Harlow said. "And we're not as alone as you think. There's a plan, Lyra. There has been for 20 years. "What plan? Speak plainly. I'm tired of riddles and secrets." Harlow hesitated, then reached for the data crystal Lyra had tucked into her pocket. "May I?" She handed it to him. Harlow inserted it into a slot on the main console. A hologram appeared, much larger this time. It showed Lyra's father, but much younger than she had ever seen him. "My daughter," the hologram began. "If you're watching this, then the worst has happened, and the Void Collective has found us sooner than we predicted. But we are not unprepared." The image changed to show a star map. 20 years ago, our scientists detected a disturbance in the fabric of spacetime. They called it the convergence, a moment when our universe would briefly touch others. We realized the Void Collective was not invading our space. They were invading our reality from another universe altogether. "That's why conventional defenses failed," Lyra whispered. The hologram continued. "To fight an enemy from beyond our reality, we needed weapons and allies that could bridge that gap. That's where Commander Harlow comes in." The image shifted to show a younger Harlow standing beside Lyra's father, in what looked like a sacred ceremony chamber. "The man beside you is not just a soldier, Lyra. He is the result of a sacred union between our two civilizations, a genetic bridge between humans and Elysians. His real name is Alaric, and he is your husband." Lyra gasped, staring at Harlow. Or Alaric, with disbelief. "That's impossible," she said. "I would remember my own husband." "Your memories were altered," Alaric said gently. "Mine too. It was necessary to protect both of us until the right moment." The hologram explained. "The union was performed just after Alaric arrived as part of the first Earth delegation. Our scientists discovered that his genetic makeup was unique, compatible with Royal Elysian DNA in a way no other humans was. This compatibility made him the perfect candidate for the Sacred Union, a binding that would allow him to operate our most advanced technology. But why send you away? Why erase our memories? Lyra asked, still struggling to accept what she was hearing. The assassination attempt that killed your mother was not random. The hologram continued, as if answering her question. The Void had agents among us even then. They learned of our plan and tried to stop it. To protect you both, we had to separate you. Alaric volunteered to have his memories suppressed and return to Earth. There, he would learn human military tactics from within while his Elysian abilities remained dormant until needed. Alaric touched Lyra's hand hesitantly. I didn't know until 6 months ago when my memories started returning. Your father contacted me secretly. That's why I was assigned to the diplomatic mission. The ship suddenly shuddered, dropping out of hyperspace. Alarm signals flashed across the control panels. What's happening? Lyra asked. We're being pulled out of hyperspace, Alaric said, checking the instruments. Someone's using a gravity well generator. The view screen showed a massive ship ahead of them, but not a void vessel. This one bore the insignia of the Elysian Royal Fleet. Incoming transmission, Lyra said, activating the communication system. A stern female face appeared on the screen. She wore the uniform of an Elysian fleet admiral, though it was torn and stained with what looked like ash. Princess Lyra, the woman said formally. I am Admiral Morgan of the Third Fleet. Thank the stars you survived. We've been searching for royal survivors since the attack. Admiral, Lyra acknowledged. How many ships escaped? 7 capital ships and their support vessels, Morgan replied. About a quarter of the Third Fleet. The first and second were destroyed defending the capital. And my father? The king? Lyra asked, though she already knew the answer. Admiral Morgan's face fell. I'm sorry, Your Highness. The palace took a direct hit. There were no survivors from the royal compound. Lyra fought to maintain her composure. Admiral, we need to reach Helios 9. Can you provide escort? Morgan looked surprised. Helios 9? That outpost was abandoned years ago. Not entirely, Alaric cut in. The king maintained it as a contingency base. There are supplies and equipment. There we need. Admiral Morgan's eyes narrowed as she noticed Alaric. And you are? Commander Alex Harlow, Earth Defense Force. I was assigned to the diplomatic mission to Elysium. He has my complete trust, Lyra added firmly. Morgan didn't look convinced but nodded anyway. Very well, Your Highness. We'll escort you to Helios 9. But I should inform you that with the king's death you are now queen of the Elysian people. What's left of us? The transmission ended, leaving Lyra and Alaric in silence. Queen, Lyra whispered. I never thought it would happen like this. I'm sorry, Alaric said. This burden shouldn't have come to you so soon or in this way. Lyra straightened her shoulders. If what my father said is true, if you really are my husband, then this burden is shared. I am, Alaric said simply. Though I'm still recovering memories from before, but I know this. The Sacred Union wasn't just a political arrangement. I chose it. I chose you. Why would you agree to have your memories erased? To live as someone else for 20 years? From what I remember, it was the only way to ensure the plan would work. I needed to truly become human again, to learn their ways completely. And, he hesitated, I needed to be protected from the Void's telepathic influence until my Elysian abilities matured enough to shield me. The stellar whisper fell in with Admiral Morgan's fleet, surrounded by Elysian warships as they changed course toward the distant Carillion system. As they traveled, Lyra studied Alaric covertly. Now that she knew the truth, she could see subtle signs of his Elysian heritage. The way his eyes sometimes caught the light with that distinctive glow, his slightly too perfect reflexes, the ease with which he understood their technology. Can I ask you something? She said as they entered the Carillion system hours later. Anything. Do you remember us from before? Alaric's expression softened. Pieces, fragments. I remember a ceremony under the aurora lights. I remember promising to return. And I remember... He touched his forearm where a jagged scar was visible. Receiving the royal mark, Lyra's breath caught. She reached out and touched the scar. As her fingers made contact, a jolt of energy passed between them. Memories flashed through her mind. Fractured images of a younger Alaric, a sacred binding ceremony, and a desperate escape as assassins stormed the temple. She pulled her hand away, gasping. I saw it. Just for a moment. Your memories are still there, Alaric said. Just locked away. The same happened to me. They started coming back when I returned to Elysium. The fleet slowed as they approached a dense asteroid field. Hidden among the tumbling rocks was Helios 9, a collection of domed structures built into a particularly large asteroid. What's so important about this place? Lyra asked as they prepared to dock. Helios 9 was cold and dark when they arrived. Emergency lighting flickered on as Lyra, now queen of the scattered Elysian survivors, walked through the abandoned halls with Alaric at her side. Admiral Morgan followed behind them with a squad of elite guards. This place has been empty for decades, Morgan said, her breath visible in the chilled air. What could possibly be here that would help us against the void? Something ancient, Alaric replied. Something built before the current Elysian civilization rose to power. Lyra felt drawn to a particular section of the outpost, a plain metal wall that seemed no different from any other. Yet something called to her from behind it. She placed her hand against the cold surface. There's something here, she said. The wall hummed under her touch. Lines of light spreading outward from her fingertips in geometric patterns. Alaric stepped forward and placed his hand beside hers. The lights grew brighter, changing from blue to gold. Royal DNA recognized, announced a voice that seemed to come from the walls themselves. Secondary signature confirmed. Access granted. The wall split down the middle, revealing a long corridor that sloped downward into the heart of the asteroid. Lights activated automatically as they proceeded, illuminating a passage that looked much older than the mining outpost built above it. What is this place? Lyra asked, running her fingers along the walls. They were made of a material she didn't recognize. Not metal or stone, but something that seemed almost alive, warm to the touch despite the freezing temperatures. Your ancestors called it the Sanctuary, Alaric said. It was built 10,000 years ago during the last convergence. How do you know this? Admiral Morgan demanded, her hand resting on her weapon. Because I helped build it, said a new voice. They all turned to see a holographic figure standing in the corridor ahead, an elderly man in ancient Elysian robes. Guardian, Alaric said, bowing slightly. You're still functional. Of course, the hologram replied. I was designed to last until the next convergence. I see you've returned, consort, and you've brought the queen. The Guardian's eyes, despite being just projections of light, seemed to study Lyra intently, though neither of you remember your roles yet. What is this place? Lyra asked directly. What's hidden here that can help us fight the void? Not fight, the Guardian corrected. Balance, come, I will show you. They followed the glowing figure deeper into the asteroid. The passage opened into a vast chamber so large that its ceiling was lost in darkness above them. And there, suspended in enormous docking cradles, were ships, unlike any Lyra had ever seen. They were sleek and dark, their hulls seeming to absorb light rather than reflect it. Crystal-like structures grew from their surfaces in organic patterns. There were dozens of them, ranging from small fighters to massive capital ships. The Shadow Fleet, Alaric whispered in awe, created from the same quantum technology the Void now uses against us, the Guardian explained. Because the Void was once us. Lyra turned to the hologram in shock. What? During the last convergence cycle 10,000 years ago, your civilization stood at a similar crossroads, the Guardian said. A faction broke away, believing that the only way to survive was to embrace the chaos of the multiverse, rather than maintain the boundaries between realities. They took this technology and vanished into the spaces between galaxies. They've been planning their return ever since, Alaric added, evolving the technology, corrupting it. Admiral Morgan stepped forward, her face pale. You're saying our enemy is us from another reality? A version of you, the Guardian corrected. One that chose a different path. The hologram guided them to a central platform overlooking the fleet. These vessels were created as a last resort, a means to fight quantum technology with quantum technology. They can phase between realities just as the Void ships do. Why? Wasn't this fleet used when the Void first attacked? Lyra asked. Because only specific genetic signatures can activate and control these ships, the Guardian replied. The Royal Elysian bloodline and... He looked at Alaric. The consort's unique genetic structure. The sacred union, Lyra realized. That's why my father arranged our marriage. Not just as a political alliance with Earth, but because Alaric's DNA was compatible with these ships. Precisely, the Guardian confirmed. Your combined genetic signatures are the key to the fleet's awakening. That's why you were separated and hidden, to protect the key until the fleet was needed. Alaric approached one of the smaller vessels, placing his hand on its dark hull. The ship responded immediately, crystal structures lighting up with internal energy. I remember designing these, he said softly. Not the original fleet. They were already ancient when I first came to Elysium, but I helped adapt them to interface with human neural patterns. You were an engineer before you were a soldier, the Guardian said. The brightest mind Earth sent in their first delegation. Lyra joined Alaric, placing her hand next to his on the ship's hull. The reaction intensified, the entire vessel humming with power. These memories, she said, why can't I access them fully? A protective measure, the Guardian explained. After the assassination attempt that took your mother's life, your father feared the Void had agents with telepathic abilities who could extract information from your minds. The memory blocks were placed to shield you both, and to shield the knowledge of this fleet. Admiral Morgan circled one of the larger ships, her military training evident in her assessment. How many vessels? 57, the Guardian replied. From single-pilot fighters to the flagship, the Penumbra. He gestured to the largest ship at the center of the chamber, a massive vessel that dwarfed even the Elysian royal cruisers. With the crews from my surviving ships, we could operate maybe 15 of these vessels, Morgan calculated. Not enough for a full-scale counteroffensive. We won't need crews, Alaric said. These ships are semi-sentient. They bond with their pilots. One pilot per vessel, regardless of size. That's impossible, Morgan objected. No single pilot could manage a capital ship. With conventional technology, no, the Guardian agreed. But these vessels were designed to form a symbiotic link with their pilots. They become extensions of will and thought. Lyra felt something stirring in her mind, more memories trying to break through the barrier that had been placed there. She saw flashes of herself in a training chamber, learning to control a vessel with nothing but her thoughts. And Alaric was there, guiding her. We've trained for this, she said suddenly. Haven't we? Alaric nodded. Yes, before I was sent back to Earth. We spent 6 months preparing to pilot these ships. The Guardian's hologram flickered slightly. Your memories will continue returning now that you're here. The proximity to the fleet accelerates the process. How long until the Void realizes where we've gone? Lyra asked. Not long, Morgan answered grimly. We detected Void scout ships at the edge of the Carillion system as we arrived. They're searching for us, for you specifically, Your Majesty. Lyra looked across the vast chamber at the dormant fleet. How long to wake these ships and make them combat ready? The awakening ceremony requires 12 hours, the Guardian said. After that, each pilot must bond with their vessel. That process varies from hours to days depending on the compatibility of the pilot. We don't have days, Morgan warned. No, Alaric agreed. But we have enough to start. We should begin with the smaller vessels, fighters and corvettes. They're easier to bond with. I'll select our best pilots, Morgan said. Those with the strongest telepathic ratings. As the Admiral left to make preparations, Lyra turned back to the Guardian. You said the Void was once us. Elysians who chose a different path during the last convergence. What exactly is the convergence? My father's message mentioned it but didn't explain fully. The convergence is a natural cosmic cycle, the Guardian explained, projecting a holographic model of multiple universes overlapping. Every 10,000 years, the barriers between parallel realities thin. It's a time of great danger and great possibility. During the convergence, what was separate can be joined. What was broken can be healed, or what is whole can be shattered, Alaric added. The Void believes that by forcing a complete collapse of the barriers, they can create a new reality, one they control. And we're trying to stop that, Lyra concluded. Not just stop it, the Guardian corrected. Guide it. The convergence cannot be prevented, it is a natural cosmic process. But it can be shaped by those with the right abilities. The hologram looked meaningfully at both of them. That is the true purpose of the Sacred Union. Not just to activate the fleet, but to guide the convergence toward harmony rather than chaos. Lyra felt the weight of this responsibility settling on her shoulders. Not just queen of a scattered people, but now guardian of reality itself. How do we begin? She asked. With the awakening ceremony, the Guardian replied. And for that, you'll need to fully remember who you are to each other. The hologram led them to a small chamber off the main hangar. Inside was a circular platform surrounded by crystalline structures similar to those on the ships. The memory sanctum, the Guardian explained. It will help restore what was hidden from you both. Lyra looked at Alaric uncertainly. Will it hurt? I don't know, he admitted, but we need to remember all of it. The awakening ceremony began at what would have been dawn on Elysium. Lyra and Alaric stood at the center of the vast hangar, surrounded by the dormant Shadow Fleet. Admiral Morgan had selected 20 Elysian pilots with the highest telepathic ratings. They formed a circle around the royal couple, their faces solemn. Remember, the Guardian's hologram instructed, the fleet responds to intent as much as command. Your minds must be clear, your purpose united. Lyra wore her royal regalia, salvaged from the Stellar Whisper, a circlet of living metal that enhanced her natural Elysian abilities. Alaric stood beside her in a hybrid uniform that combined his Earth military rank with Elysian royal symbols. The scar on his forearm, his royal mark of union, was now fully visible, no longer disguised as a battle wound. Begin, the Guardian said. Lyra and Alaric joined hands. The moment their fingers touched, energy began to flow between them, visible as ripples of light that traveled up their arms and spread across their bodies. The royal mark on Alaric's arm glowed brightly, matching the light from Lyra's circlet. They spoke the ancient words together, their voices harmonizing in a way that made the very air vibrate. From separate worlds, we stand as one. From divided realities, we forge unity. We call upon the shadows between stars, the vessels of balance, guardians of the void. Awaken to our combined will, rise to our united purpose. The energy flowing between them intensified, spreading outward in concentric circles. When it reached the waiting pilots, they gasped as the power flowed into them as well. And then, like a wave crashing against a shore, the energy surged toward the dormant ships. One by one, the crystal structures on the vessels began to glow. First, the smallest fighters, then the mid-sized corvettes, and finally the massive capital ships. Last of all, the flagship Penumbra came to life, its enormous hull illuminated from within by pulsing blue-white light. The awakening is complete, the Guardian announced. The fleet lives again. The pilots moved forward, each approaching the vessel they had been assigned to. As they placed their hands on the hulls, the crystal structures responded, forming connections unique to each pilot. Alaric turned to Lyra. It's time for us to bond with the Penumbra. They crossed the hangar to the flagship, a vessel so large it seemed impossible that it could have remained hidden for so long. A boarding ramp extended as they approached, responding to their presence. Inside, the ship was unlike any Elysian vessel Lyra had ever seen. Instead of the clean, minimalist design of modern ships, the Penumbra's interior seemed almost organic. Corridors curved in flowing lines, Walls pulsed subtly with inner light. And everywhere, crystal formations grew like living things. "It's beautiful," Lyra whispered. "And deadly," Alaric added. "The most powerful weapon ever created by your ancestors." They reached the command center, a circular chamber dominated by a raised platform at its center. No conventional controls were visible. This ship was meant to be operated by thought alone. "We'll need to complete the bonding process," Alaric said. "It will connect our minds to the ship and to each other." "Will it be permanent?" Lyra asked. "No, but while we're connected, there will be no secrets between us. Everything I am, you'll know, and everything you are, I'll know." Lyra nodded. "I'm ready." They stepped onto the platform together. Crystal structures rose around them, enclosing them in a translucent cage. The moment the circle completed, Lyra felt the ship's consciousness touch her mind. Ancient, powerful, waiting. And then she felt Alaric. Not just his hand in hers, but his mind, his soul connecting with hers. Memories flowed between them freely now. She saw his 20 years on Earth through his eyes. The confusion of living as someone else. The constant feeling that something was missing. The dreams of a woman with starlight in her eyes that he could never quite remember upon waking. He saw her life after he left. The loneliness she couldn't explain. The gradual acceptance of her royal duties. The sense that some vital part of herself had been taken away. "I never stopped looking for you," his thoughts whispered to hers. "Even when I didn't know what I was looking for." "And I never stopped waiting," she replied. "Even when I didn't know who I was waiting for." Their consciousnesses expanded further, merging with the penumbra itself. The ship's systems came fully online, responding to their thoughts. Lyra could feel every part of the massive vessel as if it were an extension of her own body. The bonding process completed with a surge of energy that left them both gasping. The crystal cage retracted, but the connection remained, between them and with the ship. "Bonding successful," the Guardian's voice announced through the ship's communication system. "The penumbra recognizes its sovereigns." Alaric helped Lyra to her feet. "Can you feel it?" he asked. She nodded. "Everything. The engines, the weapons, the quantum drive." She paused, sensing something else. "And the other ships. I can feel them too, all connected." "The Shadow Fleet acts as one organism," the Guardian explained. "Each vessel independent yet part of a greater whole. Through the penumbra, you command them all." A communication channel opened, showing Admiral Morgan on the bridge of one of the smaller capital ships. "Your Majesty, all vessels report successful bonding. The fleet awaits your command." "Status of the Void Forces?" Alaric asked. "Scout ships have entered the system. Their main battle group appears to be 1 hour behind them." Lyra exchanged a look with Alaric. Through their mental link, no words were needed. They both knew what had to be done. "Prepare the fleet for departure," Lyra ordered. "We won't wait for them to find us. We'll take the fight to them." As the Shadow Fleet prepared to leave the asteroid base, Lyra stood on the penumbra's observation deck, watching the smaller ships move into formation around the flagship. Through her connection to the fleet, she could feel the determination of each pilot, their minds now linked to their vessels just as hers was linked to the penumbra. Alaric joined her, standing close enough that their shoulders touched. The contact strengthened their mental link. "Are you afraid?" he asked quietly. "Yes," she admitted. "But not of dying. I'm afraid of failing, of letting the Void complete their plan." "We won't fail," Alaric said with certainty. "The fleet is stronger than they know, and so are we." A sensor alert drew their attention. One of the Void scout ships had discovered the asteroid base and was transmitting data back to its fleet. "They found us," Lyra said. "Good," Alaric replied. "Now we can show them what they're really facing." Through her mental link with the ship, Lyra gave the command to move out. The penumbra responded instantly, its engines powering up with a deep hum that resonated through the hull. The asteroid base's massive doors opened, revealing the star-filled blackness of space beyond. One by one, the Shadow Fleet vessels emerged from hiding, dark shapes against the darkness, visible mainly by the glow of their crystal structures. The Void scout ship, seeing what it faced, attempted to flee. "Shall we stop it?" Admiral Morgan asked through the comm channel. "No," Alaric replied. "Let it go. Let it tell its masters what awaits them." The fleet formed up around the penumbra in a formation that Lyra somehow knew without being told. A pattern that enhanced their quantum field, allowing them to move partially in phase with multiple realities at once. "Set course for the Proxima. Relay station," Lyra commanded. "The Void is using it to broadcast control signals to their forces throughout the sector. If we can take it, we cut off their communication." The Shadow Fleet accelerated in perfect synchronization, the stars blurring around them as they entered quantum transit, a form of faster-than-light travel that didn't require conventional hyperspace lanes. As they traveled, Lyra and Alaric worked with Admiral Morgan to develop their battle strategy. Through the Penumbra's systems, they could project holographic maps of the entire sector, showing Void fleet movements updated in real time. "Their ships are converging on Elysium," Morgan observed. "They're stripping our world of resources, technology, and people." "Taking prisoners?" Lyra asked, alarmed. "Worse," Alaric said grimly. "According to these readings, they're taking genetic samples. They're searching for anyone with royal blood. Why? The royal family is nearly extinct. It's just me now." The Guardian's hologram appeared beside them. "The Void needs royal DNA to complete their version of the convergence. Your bloodline carries the genetic key that can either stabilize reality or shatter it completely." "Then I'm the bait," Lyra realized. "They'll come for me." "They already are," Alaric confirmed, pointing to a section of the holographic display. A Void battle group had changed course, heading directly toward their position. "They've tracked us faster than we anticipated." "How long until we reach Proxima Station?" Lyra asked. 20 minutes at current speed," Morgan replied. "The Void intercept force will reach us 5 minutes after that. Then we have a small window to take the station before we're forced into battle," Alaric concluded. Lyra felt a strange sensation through her link with the penumbra, a disturbance in the quantum field around them. "Something's wrong," she said. "The ship is detecting fluctuations." The Guardian studied the sensor readings. "The Void is manipulating the quantum field. They're trying to force the convergence to begin prematurely." "Can they do that?" Morgan asked, alarmed. "With enough power, yes," the Guardian confirmed. "They must have built a quantum accelerator near Elysium's twin suns. The energy output would be sufficient." Lyra and Alaric burst through the grate into the control room. The figure that looked like Orion turned, his movements unnaturally smooth. His eyes glowed with cold light. "Sister," he said, his voice echoing strangely. "I've been waiting for you." "You're not my brother," Lyra replied, her energy blade humming to life in her hand. "I am what he became," the figure said, "what we all will become when the convergence completes." He gestured to the view screen, which showed Elysium's twin suns. Between them, a massive structure was taking shape, the quantum accelerator, drawing energy from the stars themselves. Outside the station, the battle raged. Through her link with the penumbra, Lyra could sense the Shadow Fleet holding its own against the Void ships, but more enemy vessels were arriving constantly. "The convergence comes, sister," Not Orion continued. "You can't stop it. You can only choose which side of the new reality you want to be on." "What happened to my brother?" Lyra demanded. "What did you do to him?" "He saw the truth during his diplomatic mission," the figure replied. "He ventured too close to a natural quantum rift. He glimpsed what lies beyond, the dying universes alongside our own. He understood that separation is an illusion. We are all one reality, artificially divided." "And the Void offered to make him whole again," Alaric guessed. The figure smiled coldly. "The Void showed him his true potential. As we can show you yours, consort, your human adaptability combined with Elysian power, you're already a bridge between worlds." Alaric's hand tightened on his weapon. "I've made my choice," Not Orion sighed. Such a waste. We could have offered you godhood. Instead, you'll watch reality crumble around you. He moved with blinding speed, launching himself at Lyra. She barely raised her energy blade in time to block his attack. To her shock, his hand had transformed into a crystalline blade similar to the structures on the shadow ships. The Royal DNA allows complete quantum manipulation, he explained as they struggled. I can reshape matter at will. Become anything. Everything. Alaric circled around, trying to reach the broadcast controls while Lyra kept Not Orion occupied. But the creature sensed his intention and split into two identical forms. One continuing to fight Lyra while the other intercepted Alaric. Two can be in two places, the copies said in unison. Soon we will be everywhere. Lyra fought desperately, but the creature matching her brother's form anticipated her every move. It knew her training, her techniques. He's in there somewhere, she realized. My brother's memories, his knowledge. Through their mental link, Alaric sent her a thought. The broadcast signal. It's not just controlling minds, it's connecting them. A network. Understanding flashed between them. If the Void had built a network, connecting all their thralls, then disrupting that network could free them all, including whatever might remain of her brother. The crystals in our armor, Lyra thought back. They respond to our combined signature. We can use them to generate a counter-frequency. Alaric dodged another attack from his opponent. We need to get closer to each other. Lyra feinted left, then spun right, moving closer to where Alaric fought. As the distance between them decreased, the crystals embedded in their armor began to resonate, glowing more brightly. What are you doing? Both copies of Not Orion demanded, sensing the change. Bringing balance, Alaric replied. Lyra and Alaric moved in perfect synchronization, their years of separation falling away as they remembered the combat training they had shared before. Back to back, they fought the two copies, gradually shifting positions until they stood directly beneath the main broadcast array. Now! Lyra shouted. They clasped hands, completing the circuit between them. Energy surged through their connected armor, the crystals amplifying it exponentially. A pulse of blue-white light exploded outward from them, washing over the control room and beyond, racing through the station's systems. The copies of Not Orion screamed, their forms destabilizing, as the counter-frequency disrupted the Void's control. Throughout the station, the mind-controlled personnel collapsed as the signal releasing them from thraldom. On the main control panel, systems began shutting down. The broadcast that had extended the Void's influence across the sector faltered and died. One of the copies of Not Orion dissolved completely into quantum particles. The other fell to its knees, its form fluctuating wildly between Orion's appearance and something alien, monstrous. What have you done? It gasped. Freed those you enslaved, Lyra answered, approaching cautiously. Including my brother, if anything of him remains. The creature looked up at her, and for just a moment Lyra saw something familiar in its eyes, a flash of the brother she had lost. Lyra, it whispered, her brother's voice breaking through. It's too late. The accelerator. It's already activated. The convergence has begun. How do we stop it? Alaric demanded. You don't. Orion's voice replied weakly. But you can guide it. The royal bloodline, the consort bond. It was always meant for this. The creature's form destabilized further, particles of light breaking away from its outline. Find the eye of convergence, Orion's voice said urgently. At the center of the accelerator, together you can reshape what comes after. With those words, the last of the creature dissolved, leaving nothing but a shower of light particles that faded quickly. Lyra stood silent, mourning the brother she had lost twice now. Alaric's hand found hers, offering silent support through their bond. The station shuddered as explosions rocked its outer sections. Admiral Morgan's voice came through their comm link. Your Majesty, the station is secure, but we're losing the space battle. Void reinforcements keep arriving. We can't hold them off much longer. Through the view screen, they could see the quantum accelerator near Elysium's suns growing brighter. Space itself seemed to be bending around it, reality fracturing into prismatic shards. "We need to get to that accelerator," Lyra said. "It's the only way to stop this." "Or guide it," Alaric reminded her. "As your brother said." They raced back to their shuttle, fighting through pockets of resistance where the Void's control hadn't been completely broken. The station was in chaos, but the path to the docking bay remained clear. As they boarded the Penumbra once more, the full scope of the battle became clear. The Shadow Fleet was outnumbered 3-1, and while their quantum technology gave them an advantage, the Void ships were adapting quickly. "All vessels, form up on the Penumbra," Lyra commanded through her link with the fleet. "We're making for the accelerator." "That's suicide," Admiral Morgan objected. "The accelerator is surrounded by Void capital ships." "We're not going to destroy it," Alaric explained. "We're going to use it." The Shadow Fleet broke off from the battle around Proxima Station, reforming around the Penumbra as it set course for Elysium's twin suns. The Void Fleet pursued, but the Shadow vessel's superior quantum drives gave them the edge in speed. As they approached the accelerator, the effects of the premature convergence became more pronounced. Space rippled around them, glimpses of other realities briefly visible through tears in the fabric of their universe. "The barriers are failing," the Guardian's hologram warned. "We have minutes, perhaps less, before total collapse begins." The accelerator itself was a massive ring structure positioned between Elysium's twin suns, drawing energy from both. At its center was a sphere of pure energy, the eye of convergence, where reality itself was being manipulated. "How do we approach?" Lyra asked. "The radiation from the suns alone should destroy any ship that gets too close." "The Shadow Fleet was designed for this," the Guardian replied. "The quantum phasing will protect you for a time, but you must reach the eye quickly." Void ships moved to intercept them, forming a blockade between the Shadow Fleet and the accelerator. A massive battle erupted, energy weapons and quantum torpedoes tearing through the void of space. "We need a diversion," Alaric said. "Something to draw off enough of their ships for the Penumbra to slip through." Through their mental link with the fleet, they sensed one of the ship captains, a young Elysian pilot named Vela, volunteer her vessel. "My ship can generate a quantum echo," she proposed. "Make it appear that the entire fleet is attacking from a different vector." "It would burn out your ship's core," the Guardian warned. "I know," Vela replied simply. "For Elysium." Before they could object, Vela's ship broke formation, accelerating away from the main fleet. As it reached a position opposite the accelerator, it began pulsing with energy. Suddenly, phantom images of the entire Shadow Fleet appeared around it, perfect duplicates down to their energy signatures. The Void ships reacted immediately, half their forces breaking off to intercept what they perceived as the main threat. The path to the accelerator, while not clear, was now passable. "All ships covering formation for the Penumbra," Admiral Morgan ordered. "Get our sovereigns to that eye." The Shadow Fleet surged forward, engaging the remaining Void blockade. Ships on both sides were destroyed in brilliant flashes of energy as the battle reached its peak intensity. The Penumbra, shielded by its escort vessels, pushed through the chaos toward the accelerator. As they drew closer to the twin suns, the ship's systems began to strain against the immense gravitational forces and radiation. "Hull temperature rising," the Guardian reported. "Quantum phasing at maximum." Princess Lyra did not care much about the human soldiers on her world. As the next ruler of the most advanced civilization in the Andromeda Cluster, she had bigger worries. The Void Collective was eating up star systems at the edge of known space, and war was coming. The royal palace was busy as visitors from Earth arrived to form a military partnership. Lyra watched from her private tower as the human warship Valiant Dawn entered orbit. Its metal hull shone in the light of Elysium's twin suns. "More primitive warriors," she said to her advisor Kella. "Father thinks their fighting skills are good, but their technology is hundreds of years behind ours." Among the new arrivals was Commander Alex Harlow. He was a decorated soldier who stood out from his loud comrades because of his quiet manner and watchful eyes. When he was introduced at the formal welcome party, he simply bowed. But he did not bow awkwardly like other humans. He moved with the smooth grace of someone who knew Elysian customs well. "Your Highness," he said. His voice had a strange echo that made her mind-reading senses tingle. Something about him felt oddly familiar, though she was sure they had never met before. Later, that night, Lyra studied ancient books about the prophesied convergence. This cosmic event would either save their civilization or destroy it. While reading, she felt someone outside her room. She grabbed her energy blade and threw open the door. Commander Harlow stood there with his hand raised, about to knock. "How? Did you get past the royal guards?" she demanded. "They let me pass," he replied calmly. He opened his hand to show a small crystal object. "Because I carry this." Lyra's eyes grew wide. It was a royal sign, one thought lost many years ago when her older brother, the previous heir, had vanished during a trip to a distant galaxy. "Who? Are you really Commander Harlow?" she whispered. Her blade still hummed with energy between them. His eyes now glowed slightly with an inner light that no human should have. He looked directly at her and said, "Someone who made a promise to return." The next morning, Lyra found her father in the war room. The king stood before a large map of their star system, with holographic enemy ships positioned at its edges. "The commander you sent to my chambers last night," Lyra began. "He had my brother's royal sign." The king did not look surprised. "And what did you make of him?" "He is not fully human," Lyra said. "His eyes glow like ours can. He moves like us. He knows our ways too well." "He has spent time among us before," the king said carefully. "Who is he to me?" Lyra pressed. "When I am near him, my mind feels strange, like I should know something that I cannot remember." The king sighed. "It is not yet time for all truths. The Void Collective has spies everywhere. Even thoughts are not safe. But know this, Commander Harlow is our greatest hope against the coming darkness." Before Lyra could ask more questions, alarms blared throughout the palace. The royal advisor Keller rushed in, her face pale. "Void ships have been spotted entering the outer system," she reported. "They will reach Elysium in 3 days." "So soon?" The king frowned. "They were not supposed to have that technology yet." He turned to Lyra. "Find Commander Harlow. The two of you must prepare the Stellar Whisper for launch." "My personal ship?" "Why?" Lyra asked. "Because it may be all that stands between our civilization and extinction," the king replied. "Now go. Time is shorter than we thought." Lyra found Harlow in the training grounds. He was fighting 3 Elysian royal guards at once in practice. Combat. The guards were using their natural speed and telepathic advantages. Somehow Harlow was keeping up with them. When he saw Lyra, he immediately stopped and bowed. "Your Highness," he said, "what brings you here?" "Void ships are coming," she said. "My father wants us to prepare my ship, the Stellar Whisper, for launch." Something flashed in Harlow's eyes. "Recognition. Then it's begun," he said quietly. As they walked to the royal shipyard, Lyra studied him closely. "You know what's happening, don't you?" "More than I do." Harlow's face showed conflict. "I know what I was told," he said carefully. 20 years ago, your father sent me to Earth with a purpose. My memories were changed. I lived as a human, fought in their wars, learned their ways. But always, something called me back here." "For what purpose?" Lyra asked. "To be ready when the void came," he said, "because they are not what you think they are." The royal shipyard was massive, with vessels of all sizes in various stages of repair. The Stellar Whisper sat in a special dock, its sleek silver hull unlike the other military ships. It was smaller, faster, built for stealth rather than direct combat. "This ship is special," Harlow said as they approached. "One of a kind." "How would you know that?" Lyra challenged. Instead of answering, Harlow placed his hand on the ship's hull. A hidden panel slid open, revealing a handprint scanner that Lyra had never seen before. "Your father had me help design this ship," Harlow said, "before I left for Earth." When his hand touched the scanner, the ship hummed to life. Lights activated along its hull in patterns Lyra had never seen before. That's impossible, Lyra whispered. This ship was built only 5 years ago. You were on Earth for 20 years and it only responds to royal blood. Harlow looked at her, his eyes now fully glowing with the same light that marked Elysian royalty. Exactly, he said. Now you're asking the right questions. Before Lyra could respond, another alarm sounded, different from the first. This one was high-pitched, meant only for the royal family's ears. That's the inner palace alarm, Lyra said, suddenly afraid. My father. An explosion rocked the shipyard. Smoke began rising from the palace towers. They're already here, Harlow said, grimly. The outer system warning was a trick. He grabbed Lyra's arm. We need to go, now. I will not leave my father, Lyra pulled away. Your father knew this might happen, Harlow insisted. Why do you think he sent you to me? To this ship? Lyra, you are the future of your people, and I made a vow to protect that future. As royal guards ran past them toward the palace. Harlow pulled something from his pocket, a small data crystal. Your father gave me this 20 years ago. He said if the palace was ever attacked, I should give it to you and get you to safety. Lyra took the crystal. As soon as it touched her hand, it lit up and projected a hologram of her father's face. Lyra, the hologram said, if you're seeing this, then I've run out of time. Trust the man who carries this message. He is more to you than you know. More, to all of us. The fate of our people rests with both of you now. The hologram flickered out as another explosion shook the ground beneath them. Come with me, Harlow said, his voice gentle but firm. We don't have much time. Lyra looked back at the palace, now partly engulfed in flames. Then she made her decision. Let's go, she said.